Incoming transmission.
The Klingonese word of the day is Toho.
These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise.
So, this is a huge victory for the good guys.
Scotty, beam me up.
Resistance is futile. Live long and prosper.
Boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings and welcome to the Computer Resume podcast, the show covering the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order for fans new and old. I'm your host, writer-comedian Mr. Todd A. Davis. If you thought Seven of Nine was a badass as captain of the Enterprise, wait till you see her stand-up comedy set. Author and New York's premier Star Trek cosplay comedian from Hell's Kitchen. It's Dani Riedel. Yeah! Yay!
Yay. Hello,
Hi.
Todd.
How are you?
I am fine. I am very happy to be here.
Oh, so happy to have you back on. We were talking
Perfect
a
way
little
not
bit.
to crash too hard after Star Trek convention weekend.
I was about to say we were talking a little bit, and you just came back from convention. Give us the rundown. Where were you? How did it go? What'd you do?
I was in Philadelphia for the second ever Galactic Diversity and Inclusion Convention put on by Gays in Space, and it was phenomenal. I got to meet some Trek actors who are important people to me emotionally, and I'm going to get emotional talking about it again. Michelle Hurd, Terry Farrell, J.G. Hertzler, who I've met before, but is just a lovely human being to spend time with. And got to do stand-up comedy twice, once at an after party up in the hotel penthouse suite. I'm not sure if anyone will have been sober enough to remember it. And then the next night they have the official con after party. It's called Encounter at Bar Point. And
Oh, nice.
it was the Roddenberrys, and they played with Robert Picardo and Tim Russ and Bonnie Gordon, and had me open just like back in the day when comedians opened for bands.
Man, that sounds like so much fun.
It was amazing, and I had a new I needed a 7 of 9 cosplay that was easier to go to the bathroom in, so I put together this, and it ended up being kind of almost a burlesque looking, because I did the red shoulders of a Picard season 3 Starfleet uniform with these big bulky rhinestones like you'd see on a homecoming dress from 2008 or something. And it ended up looking fantastic. And I'm like, I just did this so I could pee more easily and not wear not have all these extra buckles like my Starfleet jacket has. So,
Right.
but it ended up being perfect because the whole band is bedazzled.
Oh, yes.
And the con was great. There were some really, really cool panels. And they do the celebrity panels in a way that I love. They do breakout panels. So instead of just having, say, the whole cast of whichever show, like, so they had a Picard one, a DS9 one, and a Voyager one. And instead of just having all the people from each show on stage being asked questions one at a time, they break up the audience into like 3 or 4 smaller groups and have each actor go from group to group. So everybody
that's
gets,
cool.
you get, yeah. So there you get, 20 minutes with each group, and it's Socratic method.
Man, that sounds like a great idea. Yeah.
And it works great because it takes the same amount of time, but everyone gets more quality time, and everyone, each of them gets more quality time to answer the questions because they're the only one talking to that group of people.
Yeah. Oh man, that sounds like fun.
It's a great idea. I wish more cons would do it, but no,
And it basically turns every seat into the best seat in the house, because like they're walking up to you like and talking to that group.
It's like a 3-row semicircle with them in the center. And Friday night they had an awards gala, and I wish I I wish I had time and the program in front of me to just give credit to some of the people they honored. And I wish I remembered the names because it was incredible who they chose to honor. And they had a lot of the Trek actors present the awards. One of the honorees was a trans woman who is a colonel in Space Force.
Whoa,
Yeah.
cool. Oh man, that's awesome. I'll have
And
to jot that down and look that up later. That's pretty cool.
I'll get you. I have the program somewhere with the names of everyone they honored, and I'll get you that because I mean, all those people did incredible things and are incredible people and deserved to be on that stage at that gala getting an award. So, yeah, the whole
So
thing was
cool.
great.
Let me ask you this. We were talking a little bit about performing stand up in, various venues that we do, basically anywhere they'll let us plug in a microphone. Versus the types of people that we interact with at these nerd gatherings, be it conventions or hobby stores or stuff like that. And you're actually finding that doing stand up at these events is bigger, better, more fulfilling. What do you think it is about this crowd that is beneficial as a performer? Why they are so accepting of different arts and things like that? What is it about this crowd that makes them the ideal stand-up comedy crowd?
So one thing I do have to call out is, and this is not to say that I haven't had some very, very smart audiences, even at, random bar shows.
Mm,
Uh,
mhm.
I get some very, very intelligent audiences at the Grizzly Pear. But
Yeah.
just in general, if you want to know for sure that someone is going to get a math joke, uh, or obviously a Star Trek joke, and the thing about Trekkies is we are invested. We this means something to us. So when a comedian is digging deep and telling really deep cut jokes that
Mm,
these people hear and know that the rest of the world would completely not get. Like excuse me, like if I were to say to you that oh my gosh, the Telosians must have been so excited when they brought Pike back to Vina, that's like finally getting the pandas to mate at the zoo. Like you get that joke.
yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah.
And there's something special about that. There's a community there because all of those people are having that same experience simultaneously. They're
Mm,
not just being entertained and getting a joke, but they're knowing that they're surrounded by like-minded people who are among the only people in the world who will get the joke.
yeah.
Not that there aren't a ton of Trekkies in the world, but there's
Yeah.
something special about the community of any gathering of Trekkies. And I think the yeah, I think there's more, but I think everything I just said is probably the main crux of it.
Yeah, and looking at it, because I've been trying to figure it out too, and I think, comedy has a short shelf life. And the more niche you get with it, tends to even shorten its lifespan. However, when you market yourself to these groups, to trekkers because like political parties, it changes all the time, changes all the time.
Yeah,
But like
yeah, yeah.
Trek's been going for the better part of 60 years, like, and it doesn't look like it's going to be stopping anytime soon. So that is
And
becoming,
it's
that group is getting bigger. That group is getting bigger. And so, when you talk about stand-up comedy, you always try to find the things that, or at least I try to find the things that are universal, talking about relationships, talking about, geez, it's Monday again. Like everybody knows that feeling, and,
yeah,
stuff like that. But
yeah.
when you combine that with some deep cut jokes to this group that gets it, it seems like the pool of material actually gets bigger.
Oh
So
yeah.
it's a weird, unique, wonderful um thing to have. And I kind of kick myself that I've only ever written one D&D joke and one Star Trek joke, that Star Trek joke that never works ever.
Have
but
I heard it? Can you tell it to me? If you tell
unfortunately,
me your Star Trek joke, I'll tell you my favorite D&D joke.
well, so I know if anybody listening is noticing something different in my voice, I've been sick for over a week now, and this joke involves me doing an impression of Benjamin Sisko, because the whole thing hinges on Benjamin Sisko ordering fast food at a drive-through window, and it's just
Oh,
yeah, it's just ridiculous.
I
Um,
can't imagine. He's too classy.
I know.
He's too classy.
And in the joke, I also have him trying to pay with a coupon. And like, it's absolutely ridiculous, but it never works. I always start the joke with like, "Hey, do we have any Star Trek fans?" And you'll usually get some applause. I go, "Okay, let's take it a step further. Who's a Deep Space Nine fan?" And that clapping goes way down, like almost immediately with like a standard crowd. And then I'm like, okay,
Mm.
well, just know that you're about to hear the best Benjamin Sisko impression. And I get through it. And of course, crickets. There's no noise in the room at all. And I always have to cap it off with like, sometimes the jokes aren't for you. That one's for me.
You know how I cap it off? When people, if I tell a nerd joke and people don't get it,
Please.
I just go, well, congratulations. You guys were all popular in high school. Hope you had fun with that.
Oh, that is great. That works so well. Oh. So, moving right along. Last time
Real
you were
quick, I have to tell
on.
you my D&D joke
Oh,
though.
yes, yes, yes. Go, go,
Oh,
go.
it's
Yeah.
it's just about, I love nerdy guys. I'm married to a nerdy IT guy. Like, I don't want a guy to slide into my DMs. I want a DM to slide into me. That's it. That's the joke. It's over.
I love it. I love it. I'm on board. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, my little D&D joke is I set it up with like breaking down the difference between fantasy football and Dungeons and Dragons. And
Stop right there. Can I tell my old opener when I
yeah,
first started comedy,
yeah.
my opener was just to get on stage and just go, fantasy football is Dungeons and Dragons for jocks. That was it. That was my opener when I first started comedy.
Yeah, yeah. And you're not wrong.
Sorry, go on. I just had to tell you that.
But I compare like the actual gameplay and scheduling, and you need this amount of people, and I don't have enough friends for either. And people are just, oh, I slowly start to hang my head. But yeah,
Oh.
it's interesting to see like what people react to and what they're actually reacting to versus what you're talking about and what it causes them to think of and all that. I could break down stand-up comedy science with you forever. I'm sure we could talk. You
I
might
bet we
even
could.
you might even break Flip's record of 6-hour podcasts.
Well, you were already getting the wheels turning earlier because we were talking about the universal topics and
Mm,
then combining that with the specificity in a deep cut Star Trek joke. And that's one of the first things you learn about writing comedy is that you want to appeal to you want something that's relatable to a lot of people.
mm,
Relationship humor, oh no, it's Monday again kind of humor. People like stuff people relate to, but
right.
the real humor is in the specificity.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Start
you're
with
right about that.
go big little, start with a big topic and describe it as specifically as you can. I'm trying to think of an example, but
Yeah, it's a weird kind of math, really, of just kind of, well, I mean, a popular notion about comedy, tragedy plus time equals comedy, but then there's what you were just describing of big topic and dissecting it down to single thought of comparison and exaggerate. It's a combination of like comparison and exaggeration.
yes.
And that being able to connect with an audience through that, like showing your perspective through this ridiculous comparison sort of gets everybody on the same page. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah. Oh, I've got an example, and I've been kicking myself. This is the one punchline, and you know what? It's my fault. I did crowd work, and it derailed me. But like when I say like Times Square in the 1980s was like the dark web having a farmer's market. It's a very
Wow.
short way of saying there were a lot of drugs and prostitutes, but
But man, that hits. That hits on a lot of levels. That is a specific age joke. That is a New York joke. That is a sort of modern hipster joke. Yeah, there's a lot of things going on there. God, that's great. That's so good. Oh,
we'll dissect sometime.
yes, yes, absolutely. So the last time we had you on, you came in for an episode of Discovery, and we haven't had a chance to talk with you about Strange New Worlds yet.
Mm,
Um, Strange New Worlds being this kind of unique beast within the Star Trek franchise. It's a new show, but it like predates TOS like very closely. What were your initial thoughts about Strange New Worlds as a series starting off right off the bat?
but this is what Star Trek is.
Mm,
This is pure Star Trek. These are characters with these are deep and well-developed characters in situations that are allegories, timeless allegories.
yes.
There's nothing lacking in the writing.
Mhm.
This is everything that Star Trek is. And just Pike's speech at the end, just like, here's who we are, here's the deal, here's what you're doing to yourselves.
Mm,
Or try this future. And he's talking to this fictional leader of another planet, but he's talking to everyone in the freaking world.
yeah.
It's like, yeah, you could do this, or you can join the Federation of Planets and stop being an asshole.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, you're right.
it's just right away, that one, I was just like, this is what Star Trek is. And it's one story. It's one episode of one story. You can watch it by itself. You don't know Pike's backstory, which takes away from it a little, but you can just watch that and go, okay, wow, I kind of understand the United Federation of Planets now.
Yeah, it's interesting to see like how things start, and they kind of get turned on their head quickly because initially everyone's kind of in shadow and we can't really see who's doing what and where they are and everything. And then it's revealed that like, oh, this isn't Earth. We're watching this completely separate, this completely separate species. And it turns things on its head of like humans are the aliens. And so that's
Yeah,
kind of the initial thing. And, of course, roll credits, which the music, I never skip the intro for Strange New Worlds
never,
ever.
never,
Never.
never.
Such a beautiful rendition of the original theme done by Jeff Russo. So great. But the thing that first episode did for me and still does for me, even if I were to rewatch it, even when I started rewatching it to cover it for the podcast, is when he basically has Uhura send him that video package, and there's footage of Earth not too long ago, and it's like,
Not too long ago.
oh boy, yeah, that was recent.
It makes me think of the episode of Deep Space Nine where Quark, Ram, and Nog go back in time by accident into, I guess it was maybe the early 40s. And and they're sitting there trying to figure out like, oh, how is excuse me, how is this? I did so much talking this weekend as to that too. Oh my God. But Quark is just like, why is such and such picking up radio, or that somehow they knew there was radio, something was interfering with their universal translators, maybe, I forget, but
Mm.
Nog, knowing his Earth history from Starfleet Academy, tells them some stuff, and Quark's just like, they irradiated their own planet?
Oh yeah. I mean, and
Yeah,
it doesn't take a lot of digging to find that speech of Quark talking to Cisco about, you think we're bad? Let me just regurgitate some Earth history to you. Like
Oh,
it gets
yeah.
dark real quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, hey, capitalism not sounding so bad after that, huh?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. So this whole season has been just a big, big splash of character
Wait, where are you going? I
development.
just need to say I was just imitating Quark. I'm not saying I'm not saying yay capitalism or anything.
No. It's, I got it. I got it. But yeah, this whole journey through this first season has been just a big deep dive on character development. We're getting singular stories. They made a big deal about going back to the episodic format, but maintaining serialized character arcs, which has been so great for these characters.
Yes.
And special effects through the roof, music outstanding. They are batting 1,000. They are batting 1,000.
Everything.
So how do you close out season 1 of this groundbreaking new series, but you get an alternate reality take on one of the pivotal episodes of the original series, Balance of
Yes.
Terror? Give us your initial thoughts before we get into spoiler territory. Seeing some stuff that was actually brought in from Discovery with the time crystal, seeing the shock of seeing the Romulans, the introduction of a new version of a classic character. What were your thoughts about this episode?
At first, just that it was brilliant. Just that everything they did, Balance of Terror, and I cannot leave out the Menagerie because that's possibly my favorite episode of the original series. Every time I say that, I'm like, no, but it's this one. Menagerie is definitely top 5.
Mm,
And it's because maybe I'm getting too far ahead, but just overall thoughts. This episode was so masterfully constructed and so emotionally powerful, and it did so much for the Star Trek universe by tying things together the way it did, and for us to see I don't know how specific I want to get if we're not in spoiler territory yet, but
um,
there were
it's cool. Just go ahead.
the because of course after watching it I immediately had to rewatch Balance of Terror and the Menagerie, and then immediately rewatch it again and then do the same thing again. I mean, we all did this. And after you rewatch Balance of Terror and you hear the Romulan commander just say to Kirk, as he's defeated, just, what in another life,
reality,
another reality, we would have been friends.
I would have called you friend.
I would have called you friend.
Yeah.
And the line is identical. The delivery is opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And that is such a simple thing that had so much power.
Yeah.
And when you think about the fact that what that difference in delivery of that line means, what has happened to cause the Romulan to say the line one way or another way is because of either Kirk or Pike.
Yep. And
it makes me kind of like Pike better as a human being, but also sort of understand Kirk better.
Yeah.
It even does things for characters who were created almost 60 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure
And
does.
Spock, the depth there.
Yeah.
And after rewatching the Menagerie, the weeping when Spock has an understanding of the fact that, well, Spock knows. Spock is one of the few in the know of Pike's horrible future.
Mm-hmm.
And they are close enough. Spock like gets it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you understand his behavior in the Menagerie on a new level.
Mm-hmm.
The Menagerie, which I already love. And I didn't necessarily need to know why Spock was so devoted to his past captain to enjoy that story. Yeah. The point is just that here's a story, and this is a character who something tragic happened to, and apparently he and Spock were close. Like that was enough. Mm-hmm. And now we have all this.
Yeah, to me,
it's an episode of a TV show that's so good that it makes episodes of a different TV show from 50 some years ago better.
Yeah. Yeah. To me, it feels like this episode feels like what Into Darkness should have been.
I never saw Into Darkness.
that is a different episode discussion.
Okay.
Because I tell you what, hey, if you're not a supporter on Patreon, please support us on Patreon and you'll hear the rest of this discussion
Okay.
in the after episode. But yeah, in taking what it is, expanding on it, looking at it from a different perspective, God, it really just for me, and maybe I'm misreading this, but it's kind of the realization of you have to die so that this person can do the thing that they need to do. And that's a hard pill for Pike to swallow because in the back of his head, he had his moment of heroism when he touched the crystal, saw his future, and decided to grab it anyway, sealing his fate. And
Yeah.
he thought there was going to be a big payoff for that. And this is the revelation that no, there isn't. There's
Well, there is.
such as life.
The payoff is avoiding a war with the Romulans, avoiding that war with the Romulans.
Avoiding that war, and your friend survives because he's in this Federation, and look, he was forced to sit out the Klingon war. Now he knows that he has to die to avoid another war, save his friend, and thus reaffirming that his fate is sealed. And these captains feel like, oh, there's gonna be justice, and there's gonna be it's gonna work out. It's gonna work out right. And that's not always the case. I mean, yes, you avoid war, and yes, your friend survives, but for you specifically, maybe not.
The thing is that what's so extra tragic about this is that, and maybe it's more palatable for us because we do know what ultimately happens to Pike.
Yeah.
But he doesn't.
Yeah.
And that just, it always just makes, I just want to call out, I just want to yell at the screen all the time. Like you're only going to be in the mobile iron lung for like a year.
Yeah.
And then you get to go back to Talos 4 and like live out your days with Vina in Fantasyland and you'll be happy. Like I just want to tell him so badly. Side note, I cosplayed as Vina at Farpoint in February.
That's right.
And I did a bit about Pike and Captain Batel, how are they having trouble deciding where to go on vacation? Just go to Talos 4. I mean, and then I came up with this whole idea that, the Ferengi should have found Talos 4 first. It's the perfect vacation destination.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's all profit. I mean, there's no overhead except the creepy Telosians' giant heads watching you screw. But the Telosians don't want any latinum. They just want to watch porn. But then
that's not wrong. Yeah, you're not wrong.
I so wanted to do this joke, but it's just, I feel it just only works. I feel like it just works if I'm cosplaying as Vina, but it's kind of like, I feel like Pike would have to call her before going there with Batel, right? Yeah. Like, oh, hi, Chris. Is that the real you? Oh, sorry. It's just that I have 6 illusory yous feeding me peeled grapes right now. Wait, what? You want to bring her here? You want to bring that bitch here? Wait, you think I'm going to let that jag bitch be Eve? No, fuck you, Chris. I hope your face melts off.
Available for parties, bar mitzvahs, corporate events.
No, but that and then of course his face melts up. But the Telosians must have been delighted when they brought him back to Vina, like finally getting the pandas to screw at the zoo.
Yes.
Okay, but that's the other thing here is he okay. I may not be. Maybe it's just because I have a place in my heart for Vina because of what she has been through. Yeah. And so I guess on her behalf, I don't want him to have another love interest, but he's also it's kind of not cool to not give her a heads up that if I was going to start dating someone and I knew that my face was going to literally melt off in 8 years, I'd give him a heads up.
Yeah.
But that's a side note. He is, even before Strange New Worlds came out, when all we knew of Captain Pike was the cage and the menagerie.
Mm-hmm.
I always looked at that character as this is the ultimate symbol of human resilience right here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
It's weird to, especially because Anson Mount's portrayal has been so, for lack of a better word, inspiring. Like we've sort of jokingly, but honestly, in truth, he gets all these great Captain America speeches, and with that hair and the way he carries himself, not only on the bridge but with his crew, and he's space dad, like making pancakes for everybody. Like,
he's
how can
Captain
you not?
Dad.
Yeah, how can you not love this guy? And it just sort of, like you said, just deepens the tragedy of just, oh man, ugh.
And you
And we know it's coming, and he
I know,
knows it's coming, and it's
but,
is
but,
it
but
avoidable?
we
Isn't
know
it?
it's
I
going to
don't
be
know.
okay.
Yeah, it is going
We
to be
can
okay.
watch it because we know it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
He has to live life every day,
Mhm.
and not just live life, but be responsible for the lives of a lot of people,
Mhm.
and command them, and just he's got important stuff to do. Okay, he's a Starfleet captain. He's got stuff to do. And like this is not a man who would walk slowly down 8th Avenue. Pike's got stuff to do.
Yep.
So he does it without knowing there's any light for him after what he knows is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Ugh. Okay.
I know, I want to
So
tell him.
yeah, yeah. Okay. So both of us are chomping at the bit to just open the floodgates of tears and joy and sadness, all stemming from this episode. But before we get any further, let's get to this week's recap.
Brought to you in part by our Patreon supporters, Rev J, Jerry Antimano, Kitty B, David Willett, Ed Milner, Fleet Admiral First Class Fred Sims, and Wren, Space Monkey 73, Steph Overman, and Sir Chauncey Dalton Featherstone Waugh III, Esquire.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert.
What's the situation?
Outpost 4 reported under attack, sir.
What's your status?
Vessel fired something at us.
Fantastic power.
Ships incoming, sir. They're firing their weapon.
Brace for impact.
We're being hailed. Audio only.
Human, I have you surrounded. Surrender, or we will destroy you.
I think we should attack.
Isn't that an act of war?
They started it.
This isn't a schoolyard. Billions of lives are at stake.
This is serious. End of the world stuff.
While Enterprise and the USS Cayuga provide supplies to an outpost near the Romulan neutral zone, Pike meets one of the future cadets for whom he'll sacrifice himself. He decides to send a warning to them to prevent the accident from happening. Pike's then visited by an older version of himself from
The future!
where the accident doesn't happen.
Ooh, that's interesting.
He reveals the consequences of this decision. 7 years in the future, Enterprise sees a Romulan bird of prey starship destroy the outpost.
Sucks.
They track it with the USS Farragut, commanded by a Captain James T. Kirk, who suggests an aggressive approach. Pike insists on negotiating, and the Romulan commander agrees to a ceasefire, but his sub-commander disagrees and summons an armada of Romulan warships.
Great.
Enterprise is damaged, Spock is severely injured, and the Romulans declare war on the Federation. Back in his own time, Pike accepts that his fate is necessary to save Spock and prevent war. His peace, however, is interrupted by Captain Batel of the Cayuga, who boards Enterprise and arrests Una for being a genetically modified Illyrian.
Well, this sucks.
Incoming transmission.
Is your house without honor? Are the walls of your home covered with paint instead of your enemy's blood? Restore your family's name with authentic weapons and wares from KlingonShop.com. KlingonShop.com has been honorably forging Klingon weapons since 2020. real replica batlets, maclets, curlets, the sword of K-less, and more. Whether you're decorating your domicile or completing your cosplay, KlingonShop.com has everything you need with deals so good you'll think we're Ferengi. And then I'll kill you for thinking such disgusting thoughts. Today is a good day to support KlingonShop.com, unless you're a Patak.
Okay, Mr. Rozhenko, thank you for coming in. That was great.
Of course it was! Now get me the hell out of here!
Hi, this is Conan Trenier from Star Trek Enterprise. You are listening to the Computer Resume podcast.
Okay, so wow, this episode. First of all, how great does Pike look in that TOS film era red uniform? Like, wow.
Well, yeah. Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But we get to see, there's this Pike ends up going and getting another time crystal, like we saw from Discovery. And here's another head trip. You want to see what happens? Here it is.
Yeah.
This, like, to reaffirm that you made the right decision to seal your fate, take a look at an alternate reality.
Yeah.
And wow. Seeing, to be honest, one of the great discussions is like when Kirk finally beams aboard, like he's almost already in mid stride, like out the door. He's like, Pike, we got to talk. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
And they get into it.
They do.
It's kind of like Pike, the unflappable, steadfast captain that he is, up against the luckiest son of a gun in the galaxy.
Yeah.
The space pirate, basically, in a young James T. Kirk.
Yeah, would you say he's a little chaotic good, Kirk?
He straddles the line. He might be like,
yes, not completely chaotic.
He might be neutral good, because it's kind of, he does go lawful, but it's like
he's got chaotic moments.
He is consistently swinging for the fences where it's like, man, maybe you should bunt on this one, like, to use a sports analogy, but like he is consistently just going full steam ahead. And I mean, even in that conversation that Pike has with Sam of like, tell me about your brother. And it's just
that's exactly what
he's a good guy, but like, watch out.
Yeah. He'll get the job done, but you don't get to pick how.
Yeah, exactly. And I've known some people like this who tend to ask for forgiveness rather than permission. I think now, having transitioned out of a regular 9 to 5 and working solely in the arts, I'm sure you can attest to this as well. There's that video clip going around of Jason Alexander talking about the people who wait for the opportunity versus the people who go make the opportunity. And I think Kirk is the epitome of someone who makes the opportunity. And
I mean, he beat the Kobayashi Maru.
Yeah, by thinking outside the box and making a way around it. And it's kind of, working in the arts, there's a lot of people working in the arts. There's a lot of, God, New York alone, chock full of grinding comedians, writers, performers. No short, like, throw a stone, you'll hit 3 of them before it lands on the ground. Like, so you got to make those opportunities. We
live in a Kobayashi Maru. Like, I feel like that's what it feels like, trying to make a living in the arts. And so sometimes you got to just reprogram the simulation.
Yeah. And there's times where, and I'm having to realize this about some of my efforts of late, that because I had the best of intentions to make this thing a particular way without getting too in the weeds of how to produce a comedy show, I actually produced myself out of having people show up. And so now I'm having to go back to the drawing board and be like, okay, we're going to have to structure this thing differently so people show up. And sometimes, again, because I went in with the best of intentions, it can be a hard pill to swallow of like, oh, but that's not what's going to work in the end. Like, have you run across this feeling of just kind of like needing to make the opportunity and putting forth that effort, and sometimes it pays off, sometimes it doesn't? Have you had this happen?
Oh, of course, in many different ways. Like, sometimes you'll co-produce a show and, I don't know how to do I won't go into it, but I mean, it's, yeah, like comedy is a rough grind and
Brutal. I had a buddy of mine recently who came to me and was just like, I produced a show for an empty room, and the all the comics showed up and it was a paid gig. He goes, I had to pay him out of pocket, and it was and nobody showed, like not a single audience member showed.
it
And
happens.
it happens.
Especially if
Absolutely.
there's, a lot of games in town, then it happens.
And it could be something as simple as the day of the week or
The
the
weather.
hour, the weather.
Right.
Yeah. It's so fickle. It is so fickle. Yeah, I was trying to describe comedy season to somebody recently, and I was just like, it's basically you've got January through April, and then you've got the summer, which is kind of dicey, and then you've kind of got August through October. Then you're into the holidays, and it's a crapshoot. So it's
Yeah. Yeah, we got a lull, then we get a big tourism pop right around Christmas and everything's great, and then get a lull, but it is what it is. But I mean, I'm just grateful that I get to perform most nights, even if it's not, even if it's not in my first choice situation, like I at least get to do it. But man, it is all worth it when you get to perform for
Yeah. You get those opportunities, here more recently. And this kind of goes along with another point of Kirk calling bluff and going and getting all these automated ships to show up.
Yeah.
He goes, they don't know what our armada looks like. So let's play this hand. And I feel like that's something that we have to do as comedians to put our best foot forward. Like,
sure,
you grind and grind at open mics, and for sometimes best case scenario for pennies. But when someone says, hey, what have you done? I get to say, oh, I headlined in LA. I opened for Todd Barry in New York. I've played Atlanta and Philly. And that sounds way better. They don't know that LA was an open mic and I happened to go last. They don't know that opening for Todd Barry, my name was drawn out of a bucket, and Todd Barry came on going, hey, do I have to go? Can I go earlier? So it was stars quite literally aligned for that to happen. Atlanta, a buddy let me sleep on his couch in Atlanta. We were in Philadelphia for my wife's work. I just happened to find a show at a comic book store that let me go on.
Was it Nerdy by Nature?
It was Nerdy by Nature. Yes.
That was my favorite. It was only once when I lived in Philly. It was only once a month was the thing. And I didn't have a car, so it was like hard to get to. So every month I would like splurge and take an Uber to get to Amalgam because there was like no public transportation. And
what was the guy's name? Do you remember his name that ran the show?
Keith from up the block.
Yes.
Love him.
What a sweet guy. Oh my God.
I adore him.
Keith, if you're out there and you happen to hear this, please reach out because we adore you.
Yeah, Keith, I miss you. I miss you. You're awesome. I was just in Philly. That's things. This convention, I did it last year. This convention has so much stuff, and like a lot of conventions, kind of the Sunday end of the weekend, everyone except me, because I'm a recovering alcoholic, is hungover. and they're kind of winding down in their civilian attire. Not this one. People can be as hungover as it's possible to be, and this con, they get up and they put on costumes, and then I was getting ready to be like done for the day, and then people are like, there's this thing going on at this bar and this Star Trek thing going on at this bar. So I didn't actually get to interact with any of my comedian friends in Philly this weekend. I felt bad, but that was a fun open mic, and it was always very very relaxed, and that was the first time I ever did Star Trek comedy in person, because I started doing Star Trek comedy on Zoom. My colleague and friend Dave McOwen is the other half of Seriously Nerdy Comedy. He booked me on Farpoint Convention when it was virtual in 2021. And it went great. And that's when I made my first 7 of 9 cosplay, which was born out of a problem. I had a TNG science officer's uniform, which was the teal was too much like a green screen, and you could see right through me with a green screen behind me. So I was like, what do I do? So I real quick made a 7 of 9 costume.
Oh, wow.
And that was my first con, was virtual. And then I did a couple other virtual ones, and then my first in-person one was the first online one. They just invited me to do it in person, and with Dave. And that's how it began. I'm just like, wow. Star Trek stand-up comedy exists. That I might be okay with this planet after all.
It does give you a little bit of a fuzzy. It gives you a little warm fuzzy in the heart region. And I'm excited to try to start dipping my toe in that water a little bit more. There's a couple of aspects of my life and my experiences that I haven't touched on. Like, I really haven't done much in humor or written material about my time in law enforcement. And someone asked me why. Someone asked me why, and I was just like, I'm waiting for it to be funny. And so I think I'm to that point where I'm gonna have to start maybe carving into it a little bit and seeing what I can find, as well as the nerd content, because between Star Trek, Star Wars, my love of comics, and Dungeons and Dragons, I think there's a plethora of material there to be explored and added to the set.
Well, we need to have a writing session, is what we need to do, because you may remember I've also dipped my toe in law enforcement.
Right. Yeah.
I would be delighted to workshop.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, having dipped that toe, I definitely understand how it could be very difficult to write jokes about.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I like taking dark, warped things and making them funny.
Yeah, I think there's definitely some room there. And I think if I just take the Will Ferrell approach and just lean into it, I think I've built up enough skill writing and performing that I think I can make it work. Just gotta
one of my
find
mentors, one of my mentors, Rich Scheidner, great comic and writer. He told me once, if you can't be funny, at least be interesting.
Yeah.
And that's one thing about storytelling comedy, if you were going to go there with it, is the punchlines will come. You just have to, the whole thing just has to marinate and get practiced. But if you have a story that's interesting, it'll at least engage an open mic audience until the punchlines are birthed in your brain.
Yeah. I think you're absolutely right. So let's get back into this episode. What else stands out? Because I mean, we get this great look at because I also went and rewatched Balance of Terror minutes before we got on. Rewatched Balance of Terror, and what struck me was the different interactions on the Romulan vessel in both this episode and Balance of Terror. And And also, okay, so let's start actually with the quick side note of I loved that they also took some visual cues from Balance of Terror with the camera work in this episode of Strange New Worlds, and especially some of the lighting on the face and seeing how they were able to, it's not shot for shot, but it's, oh, they're referencing this look from Balance of Terror. So it was, this episode's just marinated in Balance of Terror nostalgia, and it's wonderfully done. But getting into those interactions with within the Romulan vessel, we see kind of this betrayal of the one officer to the commander, and he's like, you're demoted 2 steps and the whole thing. But in this instance, on in this episode, Quality of Mercy, it's almost more backhanded and, you know, more sinister, I would say. What were your thoughts about, because we've talked a lot about Pike and how things are going on the Enterprise, what were your thoughts about the Romulans, about how they're portrayed in Balance of Terror versus Quality of Mercy?
That is a tough one. I think the reason that's a tough question is because the Romulans, well, up until Picard, the Romulans have, I don't think, ever been shown as anything but an enemy.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. Yeah.
So that's a really tough question because it's hard to watch Star Trek and not just automatically watch Romulans as these xenophobic isolationists, just dickholes.
Yeah. It makes me kind of look at the production of it in that Star Trek, the original series, at that time in the 60s, television was still developing, and it wasn't far removed from stage plays. And so you still get a lot of that. We hadn't really explored artistically what could be done with different lighting, with different camera techniques. I mean, we're not even talking about special effects, just those things, the technical aspects. Yeah. And when you get into the delivery of lines, that particular commander in Balance of Terror comes off a little stiff. And
watch it again and be dissecting the heck out of this now that you've brought it up.
Yeah, and the commander who's played by, and a better podcast host would have looked this up already.
The original was Mark Leonard, right?
Yes, I believe so. Who ends up playing Sarek,
Sarek,
Spock's father, and throughout most of the rest of the franchise. But he does a very good job and sort of portraying this, because it's a big shock that they look exactly like Vulcans. That's the whole big thing with them.
Oh, and that was an interesting moment too, because you see the how the racism kind of starts to come out. In both sets, in both bridge crews, Kirk's and Pike's.
Yeah.
And
I love when Kirk grabs that guy's chair and kind of spins it a little bit. You're like, stow that shit.
Yeah. Seriously. Which that's got to be tough too, being on that side of it, because that is your responsibility. Yet at the same time, this is terrifying, because all you know is that this group of people has it out for you.
Oh yeah.
That's what we know. That's our key takeaway with the Romulans. Whatever else we know about them, we know that they do not like us.
Oh yeah. And when we find out, hey, 3 of our outposts are gone, and not just gone, like the asteroids they were on have been pulverized. There's nothing but dust. And then we finally catch up, and it's one ship. And that is horrifying. Then when we finally get a look at them, it looks like the person who's been over your shoulder for and it's like, oh, no wonder he flies off the handle and kind of like, gets in these side digs at Spock. It would have been very easy to be like, you know what, for the safety of, all parties involved, we're going to confine Mr. Spock to quarters until we conduct this investigation. But it makes me think of the TNG episode, The Drumhead, where there's a spy, that spy confesses, but now we are interrogating the entire crew, and we focus on this one crewman who,
because he
falsified his application. Now he's on trial, and then Picard's on trial. Like, are you still a member of the Borg?
Or what was the last thing he said? Sorry.
Like, are you still a member of the Borg? Like,
are you now, or have you ever been? I mean,
yeah. Oh, yeah.
And they addressed that at some point. It was talked about that 7 of 9 couldn't initially join Starfleet. I think before she became a Fenris Ranger, because of the ex-Borg discrimination. But that Simon Tarsus in the Drumhead, what a sympathetic character, because I mean, he's a crewman. He didn't go to the academy. He just is someone who just really wants to be there and
dreamed of being Una among the stars. Yeah.
And they go after him for being, a quarter Romulan.
Yep.
A quarter Romulan. And it's like that. Well, that episode I could talk about for 17 hours, but.
And a quick shout out to Spencer Garrett, who plays Simon Tarsus, who was the first Trek actor when I was setting up this show. Followed me back immediately. I messaged to thank him. He responded immediately.
Oh, wow.
And when he came on, was so kind and so gracious, and just a lovely, lovely human being to talk to. Spencer, if you end up hearing this, absolutely love you and adore you, brother. You are welcome anytime to come back on this show and nerd out with us.
And your character is iconic and important to the world. And
that episode is very, very important for a lot of reasons. And we and of course Picard's speech there in that final scene. Oh my God.
Quoting
the Admiral's father.
Yeah, Admiral bitch. What's her name?
It's like Sati.
Admiral, yes.
Yeah.
Admiral Sati, yeah. But that was so powerful.
Oh yeah, and talk about some heavyweights of actors performing. It's such. Anyways,
so that's interesting because that's 100 years after this. So that still exists. We know now. We know that the Vulcans and the Romulans have common ancestors and split and developed two very, very different cultures, one of which is initiating first contact with newly warp capable species, and the other one is just completely isolationist. So we know that now, and yet that sentiment still exists.
Yeah, that's even part of that last speech when they're in the conference room and Worf comes in, and you see Worf in a moment of vulnerability, and he looks at Picard and goes, I bought into everything she said. And he's just like, we like to think that we're removed from this, and how
their mustaches are easy to spot.
Yeah, and how quickly we reverted back to hunting witches and things of that sort. And it's just man. Woo.
Yeah.
So let's get back into this thing. We mentioned a little bit about the headbutting of Pike and Kirk. Any other further thoughts about Paul Wesley and his portrayal of Kirk, this sort of new pre-Kirk Kirk?
So I like it because he's not doing a Shatner impression. And like part of you kind of wants him to, but at the same time, like when I watch it, at first it was like there's a mental adjustment because it's Captain Kirk. Right. There's so many mannerisms that are so distinct, and he does get them to a degree, but almost to just less extreme. But there are signature Kirk mannerisms in there. But once your brain adjusts to the fact that you're not seeing William Shatner, you realize that this is an actor who is actually playing a character extraordinarily well. he's just not playing William Shatner. He's playing James T. Kirk.
Bingo.
And he's playing James T. Kirk how I believe James T. Kirk would be, and believably.
Right. I think because I was just before we got on, I sort of took my dog out and to for a quick walk around the neighborhood, and I was sort of mulling over my thoughts about all of it. And I came to the conclusion in my own mind of, I think for a lot of people, it's hard to separate the Kirk swagger from the Shatner swagger. Just because those two have been married for so long that when you do a Kirk impression, you're actually doing a Shatner impression. But Paul Wesley has found that seam between the two and is heavily on the Kirk side and not the Shatner side. And I really appreciate the attention to the distinctiveness in the performance of being able to come in brash and full of spitfire and really wanting to take charge and let's get this, aggressive. I suggested an aggressive response and the whole thing, without doing the typical Shatner cadence, and all of that stuff. So,
or if he ever does, it's so subtle.
It's very subtle.
Or, just the head movements or a facial expression will be there. But no, it's like what you make that mental adjustment and then you realize how fantastic he is. And the way the two captains interact, the way the two of them interact, and towards the end, Pike kind of knows, I think, what needs to happen. And he's not happy about it because it's not diplomacy.
Yeah.
But he also is sort of recognizing, like, okay, this is a different style of Starfleet officer who is likely going to be the right person during certain times to command this ship. Yeah. And he kind of opens that dialogue. Or maybe my brain jumps too far ahead.
No. I think you're right on point there. He's got so much that he's trying to wrestle with. I mean, let alone the fact that he's trying to acclimate. He just jumped 7 years in the future. So he's like, okay, now where is everybody? What's going on? Who's on my bridge? Where's Una? Like, yeah, nobody's talked to Una. Oh yeah, you're right. And and all that. And then coming to terms with what he has learned about himself, his future, the future of the Federation, his friend, this new kid, Kirk. Yeah, that's a lot to process. The last thing, did you have anything else before we get to start wrapping it up?
What would you do? Would you save yourself, or would you save the cadets?
As a former first responder, there is something in your head that when you hear the gunshot, you hear the tires squeal, you hear the scream for help, there's something that points you towards it instead of away from it. And being as far removed from it as I am at this point, earlier this week, something happened. And I called wife. I said, I've got dinner, but I'm going to be home late. Something's happening. And she's like, please be careful. I said, okay. And hung up and got back to the house. And while I was eating dinner, eventually my wife came back to me. She said, you okay? I said, I'm thinking of all the things I didn't do. I didn't do this or that. I didn't call. I didn't do. And she's like, you can't keep living your life this way. And I go, I know. It's really hard to let go.
Yeah.
So when I see him having to force himself to act naturally, which when someone tells you, hey, just act natural, it's you act anyway but natural.
Yeah.
It's like, how do I walk? Like, what do I do with my hands?
Yeah.
It's almost impossible. So, Pike being in that spot of trying to react naturally, and you'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, what an impossible. You've asked the impossible.
Yeah.
So in terms of what would I do? That's a heavy question. That's a heavy question. I think I would end up knowing what I had done in the past to get myself into this position where I would have to make this choice. I feel there would be a conscious decision, but also at the same time, a muscle memory response. Because that's what happened to me earlier this week. It was muscle memory of like, this is happening, floor it. And my hands shifted on the steering wheel from here to how a police officer drives.
Yeah.
And I hadn't done that in a while.
We were told not 10 and 2, 9 and 3.
Yeah. In fact, South Carolina, they teach us 5 and 7.
Oh, really?
They teach us shuffle steering this way.
Oh.
It's
in the future they'll teach 7 and 9.
Yep, they will. But yeah, I think it would for myself, it would end up being muscle memory. And I would do it, and then in the midst, I would have a moment of clarity of, okay, this is happening. We knew it was, but here it is. I think that's how I'd end up being, and sort of being able to go down with the ship and, all that stuff. And
I think I would do the same. I mean,
yeah.
Primarily because it's objectively the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I think I would spend all the years leading up to it still trying to find ways to avoid it.
Yeah.
But I think when it came down to it, I would do it. Mostly because it's objectively the right thing to do. But then imagine living the rest of your life knowing that you kind of caused a major space war with
Yeah.
and the death and devastation that ensues from that. Like, it's basically there needs to be a punk band called Captain Pike's Trolley Problem. I've decided.
Oh my God, please. Somebody call dibs on that name. That's such a great name. But as you were mentioning that, it made me think of the second part of the pilot of Discovery, where we see Michael Burnham after the destruction, or after, in the midst of the Klingon War, and now she's a prisoner
And the
on
Vulcan
that.
hello.
Yeah, and now she's on her way in that shuttle. She's on her way to Discovery, and they're like, "Oh, you're Michael Burnham, the mutineer. How many lives was it?" And she knows that exact number. That's the resolve of someone who has had to make the decision and live with it.
Yeah.
And it's Michael Burnham. She hasn't had to deal with that for a while now. But if you ask her, the number's still there. I guarantee you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That number's not going away.
It's like Pike will never stop running through those names.
Yeah. I think it's a weird thing. There is a part of the Batcave. Where Bruce has a hammer and chisel, and he chisels in the name of everyone he couldn't save. And he goes and he looks at it often. And it's stuff like that. Alfred doesn't go there. Robin doesn't go there. Nobody else, just Bruce. And that's a glimpse into the head, a glimpse into the mind of the heavy head who is wearing the crown.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's the look, folks.
Wow.
So one more thing before we get into the stats and start wrapping things up, because we're already at 2 hours. We see Una get the shackles, and we knew this was coming, but we just kind of put it behind us of like, oh, that happened in episode 3, episode 4, Ghosts of Illyria. That's probably, it might not come around. Nope, her number's up.
Yeah.
What did you think when you first saw Patel show up with 2 red shirts?
So I do just have to say that when I saw Ad Astra per Aspera in a screening at a movie theater in New York, and I just remember
I'm so jealous.
Bawling on the R train on my way home. And I just remember just standing on the R train, like just sobbing into my husband's chest, going, Gene Roddenberry and Rachel Barrett will never see that. Because she got screwed.
Yeah.
She got screwed because of sexism. Because in the 1960s, the network was like, oh, you can't have a female officer that high ranking. It's not believable to audiences. So you can either have her or the alien. And 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 so that happened to her.
Yeah.
And I just wish she was alive to see that, because not only was it it was about Una, but it was to me, it was like justice being served to a woman who got hurt decades ago.
Yeah.
And still stayed the path, and she's the first lady of Star Trek forever. But it was not just, it's a beautiful story. There's so much current relevance to it, but that one, like A Quality of Mercy, tied in. So in a different way, it harkened back to the original Star Trek, but it corrected something in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It apologized to Una for not letting her exist for long enough before, to me.
Yeah.
It was beautiful.
Yeah. Getting way ahead of ourselves, seeing in those old scientists where Una's the poster girl, and she has been the inspiration for so many.
And I want to see how they connect her, because she is going to ultimately leave the ship, and Spock is going to become Kirk's first officer.
Mm-hmm.
So my guess is probably that just she doesn't want to stay on the ship after what happens to her captain, or something like that.
Yeah.
But somehow they're going to have to tie her up.
Yeah.
Pre Pike turning over the reins to Kirk, or however that plays out.
Yeah, I'm curious as to for lack of a better term, the end of the road for Una.
Yeah, so we know what happens in the wider story.
Right.
We don't know what happens to Mbenga. We don't know what happens to Una. We don't know what happens to Pelia.
Yeah. Ortegas. I expressed, I won't express it in the show, but I expressed earlier what I think will most likely happen. I hope I'm wrong. But yeah.
I'm excited to see how they wrap up the story, because it makes me think of a little bit about and I don't know if this is taboo to mention, but Rogue One. The way that ended right at the beginning of A New Hope.
Yeah.
I kind of want them to do that. But the thing is, with Rogue One, we were introduced to all these characters who we knew we have to see die, because they're not in what this is a prequel to.
Yeah.
So if a character is not in what this is a prequel to, but they don't have to die necessarily. And I really do kind of hope that there's not much of a seam there between the beginning of the original series and the end of Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, because you mentioned the cage earlier, and there's that scene with Pike in his room, and he's already exhausted from his time in service, and that was long before Strange New Worlds. So I think
5 years. I think I totally looked this up, because
it's a little bit of time for sure. There's a thought in me that wonders, is he going to witness the tragic end of this crew that he has built? We've been talking on this show that Pike is a builder of his crew and a builder of the individuals. Is he going to watch the tragic end of these characters? And is that what sends him to that station of just resigning within himself, of like, well, this is it. I'm the last one, and it has to be me. This is and now he goes as a final act of, okay, everybody's where they need to be. I've witnessed this. There is nothing else for me to do but to fulfill my destiny. And
he's going through the stages of grief in a way. Just
it's.
And if I were him, I'd be stuck in bargaining until the very end.
Yeah.
I'd be way out of this.
Yeah. And do you have anything else before we start wrapping up with the stats?
Oh my gosh. Just first of all, thank you for when I talked to you before, I told you how much I wanted to do this episode because this episode is so important to me. I mean, I've had the pleasure of with two Trek newbies getting to show them those 3 episodes. And just watching someone experience that for the first time is so cool. You kind of got to let them know, oh, by the way, Pike knows that this is gonna, but it was it the tying the tie-in with the menagerie and balance of terror and the specific way it was done. This is just it's a masterpiece.
Yeah.
It's a masterpiece.
Truly, truly. And they've done such a great job with it. We tend to it's easy to fall into a habit of, praising everything that you see on screen. Your principal actors and these wonderful special effects and they are so great, but there's so much going on behind the camera as well. So as we do every episode, we ask the question.
The writers on this
Oh yeah.
the writing. Oh.
So let's go ahead and ask the question. Who do we blame? This episode was written by Henry Alonzo Myers and Akiva Goldsman. Now, their last work, respectively, was season 1, episode 5, Spock Amok, which we discussed with the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance's backstage interviewer, Gary Horn, back on episode 122. And, of course, Akiva Goldsman, his last work, besides producing, all of New Trek, was season 1, episode 1, the pilot episode, Strange New Worlds. And we discussed that with U.S. Army veteran and comedian Patrick Cunningham back on episode 118. Also, Akiva Goldsman directed the pilot. So there's a little bonus thing for you. This episode was directed by Chris Fisher. Now, Chris is from Pasadena, California. He earned his bachelor's in philosophy and a Juris Doctor from USC. So in addition to being a director, he's a lawyer. In fact, he actually started his career as an executive attorney as a corporate attorney in London before opening up his own production company. But early on, he wrote his directorial debut, Night Stalker. And just after the 07-08 writer's strike, he directed the sequel to Richard Kelly's Donnie Darko, S. Darko, in 2009. And he helmed 10 episodes of Warehouse 13, a series I absolutely adore, before working on some comic book properties like Supergirl, Inhumans, and Runaways. And this is his first work in the franchise, but not his last. Danny, are you into any of the other superhero franchises, like TV-wise, like the Arrowverse or any of the Marvel properties?
I like, but not into. So I probably wouldn't get any deep cuts.
No, that's fair. The wife and I end up watching most of the Marvel stuff, and I was big on the Arrowverse for a while. Arrow was great.
Living in Hell's Kitchen, I really should be bigger on Marvel.
That's true.
I live so close to the fictional address of Jessica Jones, but I know enough to write jokes about. Like I always talk about how, when I moved here, I wanted to get Jessica Jones's superpower, the ability to pound bourbon all day and remain a size 0, which is the most unrealistic thing Marvel's ever done.
Such a great gag. I love that bit.
It's funny because people like I talk about this on stage, but like it's true. It's not a joke, and it is funny to me that sometimes people who aren't New Yorkers don't think Hell's Kitchen's a real place.
Yeah.
They think it just exists in the Marvel universe.
No, it's really there.
Real, and it's spectacular.
Oh yeah. Well, we've got a couple guest stars to mention here. Returning, of course, we've got Melanie Scrofano as Captain Marie Battelle. We're actually going to talk about her a little further down the line. But then we've got Matthew McFadzean, the Romulan commander. Now, he's born in North York, Ontario, Canada. So, he's a sweetheart. Graduated from McGill University, the National Theatre School of Canada, and the Canadian Film Centre. He was in 2 episodes of Mutant X, speaking of Marvel properties, 3 episodes of the Murdoch Mysteries, and he was in The B Team, a short TV movie where he played Burt Lancaster. He did 23 episodes of Insecurity as Bert Wilson, 5 episodes of Workin' Moms as Bert Nam. So if you've got a character named Bert, odds are that Matthew McFadzean is going to play him. And then he did 3 episodes of Jupiter's Legacy and 4 episodes of Hardy Boys. Before this, his only appearance in the franchise so far. He did a great job as the Romulan commander. I hope we see him again, if not as the Romulan commander, as somebody else, maybe. But yeah, he was great. Thank you so much for your performance, sir. Wonderfully, wonderfully done. And then we've got Paul Wesley as, let me see if I get this name correct, Captain James Tiberius Kirk. So let's discuss his background on another episode of Computer Resume Podcast. We've got a lot to talk about with him and his portrayal of the character. But if you want to know more, you're going to have to stick around and come back for another episode. So, Dani, as we do every episode, we ask the question, is this essential viewing? If somebody is sitting down and working their way through the Star Trek franchise for the very first time, and they come to this episode, Quality of Mercy, is this a must-see episode, or is this one that they can skip?
Obviously, this is a must-see episode. Like I said, I have introduced people to Star Trek by showing them the Menagerie and Balance of Terror, and then this, and it's if someone, even if you don't know anything about the other, if you don't know the original series episodes, you won't really get what a brilliant work of art this episode is. But you'll still enjoy it, and you'll still recognize it as critical to the advancement of the plot of the series, and it adds so much depth to multiple characters. If only there, the thing is, you couldn't spoil it for longtime fans by being like, by Paramount couldn't just be like, hey guys, you might want to rewatch Balance of Terror and the Menagerie real quick before the finale. Like,
yeah, exactly.
So there's no way to let everyone who hasn't seen the original series know to do that. But if it were possible, I would say that is essential. But even though it is not, I say this episode is more than essential. It's critical. Very essential.
I can absolutely see that. This may come across as part of as a bit of a hot take. Narratively, because this is technically, the bulk of this episode is taking place in an alternate future that doesn't end up happening. And we already know that Pike is kind of resigned to his fate. He knows it's coming.
Yeah.
Narratively, I think you could skip this episode. I'm not saying you should. I'm saying you could. However, if you're on a character track, if you are watching a character track and Pike happens to be one of the characters that you are watching, this is an absolute must, because this goes along, I mentioned it already once, this goes along so well with the episode of him claiming the time crystal in Discovery Season 2. In fact, you could probably watch that episode back to back with this as kind of a nice little bookend.
And you know what? I've never done that, and now I probably will. But it's also the relationship between him and Spock.
Yeah, bingo, absolutely.
It's the characters' journeys, but within the whole of the story, like we have a deeper understanding of why these two characters are so important to each other.
Oh yeah, the mind meld. Him having to convince him of what's going on with him, and
and Spock just knows, like, and at the end when he says, like, I wish I remembered the exact, like, Captain, I should remember the exact line because I've watched the episode probably a 3-digit number of times. It's something just like, Captain, I have a feeling you may have saved me from something really crappy, like, but the gravity of that statement is not lost on people who have, like, long held the Menagerie in their hearts as one of the greatest TOS episodes.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Dani, thank you so much for coming on and nerding out with me about comedy and Star Trek, two of my favorite things, with one of my favorite people. Thank you so much for
Thank
this. This has
you.
been absolutely wonderful. Do you have any parting thoughts before we go? Anything about the episode, the franchise, another experience here on the Computer Resume podcast? Any parting thoughts before we go?
Just that this really was the perfect way to, come down after a con weekend, because Star Trek it's something it's so important to so many people for good freaking reasons. And the communities that have formed because of it. And this episode is just an example of the writing in it is so brilliant, and that the people who really appreciate this stuff appreciate it for the right reasons. And when they all come together, it's a beautiful thing. And I mean, final thoughts on the episode are, well, I think, like I said, I've seen it probably a 3-digit number of times. Again, I asked you months ago if I could be the one to come in and talk about this one, because it is just, it's an episode that just hit me really hard, emotionally, but also just as a piece of art.
Yes.
Stepping back and taking my emotions out of it. It's perfect. Awesome. And thank you. And I want you to teach me to play Dungeons and Dragons. That's my final thought.
Oh, done and done. Yeah, it's gonna happen.
All right.
Well, folks, we will be back with a very special guest, very special secret guest for Computer Resume Podcast's Season 8 premiere, as we discuss the Season 2 premiere of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, The Broken Circle, which is available exclusively on Paramount+. Dani, you've got some stuff coming up in the not too distant future. Where can people see you?
Oh, so it's Instagram, and it's Dani Riedel Comedy, and it's DANIRIEDEL Comedy. Riedel, I before E. Yep.
And I'm at Mr. Todd A. Davis on all of the socials. From all of us at the Computer Resume podcast, thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you in 10 Forward.
Support us on Patreon and like, rate, review, and share on all your favorite platforms. Feel free to send us your subspace transmissions to computerresumepodcast@gmail.com or at Computer Resume on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. The Computer Resume podcast was created and produced by Mr. Todd A. Davis. Our logo was designed by Will Martin and Justin Bishop. The opening theme was produced by Justin Bishop, and our outro music was provided with permission by Dronode. Additional music was provided by Mr. Todd A. Davis and Gary Horn, and the voice of Computer Resume podcast and executive producer, me, Kat Davis. # LLAP. We'll see you next time.
Going through a Star Trek. We're doing Star Trek stuff in space. We probably got some phasers and shuttle pods, and we're gonna find a brand new race.
How's that for a slice of fried gold?